Cool.
Right on here.
Yeah. The link.
Hello, everybody. This is Dom from Upstate Supernatural, and I would like to welcome everybody for tuning in to another episode of Interview with the Ghost Hunter. And this week we have some great guests, actually a team that I got to meet last year when we were at Rolling Hills, and we're actually going back to Rolling Hills next weekend. But if you guys would like to let everybody know who you are and what team you work with.
Absolutely. I'm Terry Rohde, and this is Tracy Watts.
Hello.
And we are both from ESP, Explorers of Spirit Phenomena, in Bradenton, Florida.
And the next question I have for you guys is, how long have you been investigating, or how long have you been within the paranormal field?
We started the team in 2009, and we've been pretty steady investigating since then, but we've been interested in the paranormal probably our entire lives.
Yes.
And then the next question I had for you, what caused you to become interested within the field of ghost hunting?
Well, Tracy has a really good story about how she became interested.
Well, actually, I have several stories,
Yeah.
but I had an experience when I was a child. I saw someone in my room, and then had a couple other experiences here in Bradenton that got me questioning. And it's really interesting because where I work now, my real job, other than ghost hunting, is a very, very haunted area. It's got a lot of Native American history there. And I was working in a place that used to be a restaurant, which was formerly a post office back in the early 1900s, and had an experience with some mist. And that has never left me. And I'm back working in the same general area, and there's a lot of residents around that area that have some hauntings and unexplained occurrences. So it's kind of interesting that I've come full circle and I'm right back in that same area, and the activity is still there 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And what about you, Terry? What kind of got
Well,
you?
for me, as long as I can remember now, my grandmother growing up, my grandmother and my great-grandmother had kind of an eclectic past, I guess you would say. They were involved in carnivals. We're from Florida. Well, we're not from Florida. I'm actually from Connecticut. But they retired to Florida, to Gibsonton, Florida, which is where the show folks retire. And my grandmother ran carnivals, and my great-grandmother was the fortune teller, and she read tea leaves and palms. So from the time I was a little girl, I can remember her showing me her books and techniques and things like that, and I was always very, very interested. And then in school, when the kids were kind of getting involved in seances, and at least my friends did. I don't know about everybody's friends, but we would sit around on Saturday nights and try to contact like Abraham Lincoln and weird things like that. But I can remember from the time I was a little girl always knowing that there was more out there than just what we had here in the physical world, and looking for that, I think.
Very, very awesome. Very interesting. Next question I had for you. A lot of investigators, we all have interesting stories of something particular that has happened to us in the field. Do you guys kind of have some of those stories? I know people love to hear, some of the interesting stuff that happens to us.
Well, absolutely. Tracy can share first. Her story actually comes from Rolling Hills, which is where we met you. And while we were investigating with you, Tracy we all had the experience. But I think it really, really, with Tracy's first story, it stuck with her, and it's one that she shares all the time still a year later.
Yeah, it was in the kitchen. It was pretty much the end of the night, and we were going to have to leave soon. And we were all just talking and shooting the breeze, and I happened to look up, and we had this laser grid, really high quality military laser grid, and we saw this mist roll in. And the mist itself was really cool. We all saw it. We watched it for a while, and I can't even explain what happened because the mist had a purpose to it. It moved.
Mhm.
Terry stood.
It was in my face.
Terry stood in one
Yeah.
spot, and the laser grid was aimed in one direction.
Mhm.
And you could actually watch the laser
The
grid.
beam
The
actually
beam was
moved,
moving along with the mist, although the actual laser grid did not.
It never moved
But the beam itself moved.
until it was literally encompassing me, and I felt like I was under stage lights. I mean, it was just totally encompassing me, and then it sat there for several minutes. It seemed like an eternity, and then it just kind of moved, and then it moved just a little, and then how would you describe it? Got sucked.
As it dissipated,
Yeah.
it literally, you could see it swirling, and then it just kind of sucked into the light, and the light died.
And the light died, and so we thought that meant we had lost the battery. But then we went right back over to the light, and you could easily turn it right back on.
It was very cool. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, this is what I remember when I saw at that restaurant, was that white mist and the cold breeze, and no explanation for it. And that cold breeze I experienced when I was 19. This was in the middle of the summer, July, in Florida, which was just unbelievably hot. And the AC had been off for over an hour, and we were closing the restaurant, and it was just filled with this mist, and lights were flickering on and off up in the attic where there was no electricity or people. So, yeah, that was cool.
That was
I
cool.
got to see it again.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, that's awesome. I've definitely seen mist and stuff myself a couple times, but never. I didn't see it at Rolling Hills when you guys were experiencing that. But
Yeah, we went looking for you, actually. We were trying to find you to call you into the
We
kitchen.
called everybody
We were
that
trying to
walked
call
by. We're
everybody.
like,
Come
here,
in, come in.
come check this out. This is so cool.
But for me, there's been a lot of occurrences, some as recent as a couple of weeks ago. We were at this
Oh,
place that
yes.
we've investigated, I don't even know, over a dozen times in
The May
Brooksville.
Stringer house.
Yes, the May Stringer house in Brooksville, Florida. And we had actually not even gone there to investigate. We had gone there to get some pictures because we're writing a book, a children's book about the house. So we had gone there to get some more pictures for the book. And I always felt like I had like a special connection with the entity in the attic. We call him Gary. We don't know a whole lot about him except for that he was a show folk as well. Maybe that's the connection. They feel he came from the vaudeville stage. His presence arrived with a trunk that arrived donated to the museum. And I've always usually been able to contact him when we're up in the attic. He usually will set up equipment for me. We've gotten amazing EVPs from him. So I've always felt like I have a little connection with him. And we were up there that day. We were taking some pictures. We had actually left the attic, closed the door. A friend of ours had stayed inside the attic doing his own little EVP session, but we had closed the door. And we were in like the portico area outside of the attic. And Tracy was right in front of me, and she was walking down the stairs. And all of a sudden I heard someone say, Terry, Terry. And so I called down the stairs to Tracy, thinking that it was her. And she's like, I didn't call you. And I said, no, somebody said my name twice. And so then she reminded me that our friend was still in the attic. So I went up and I opened the door and I said, did you call me? And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, no, I was in here in silence. I was doing an EVP session. And I said, well, somebody just called my name twice. So he said, well, let's see if I got it on tape. And sure enough, he actually got it on his phone, which was what he was using for the EVP session. So that was pretty cool. And the other experience that I had that's never left me was from St. Albans in Virginia, Radford, Virginia. We've investigated there several times. And one time that we were there, there were three of us ladies and a younger gentleman who is a tour guide there. His group is there a lot. And he happened to be there that day and was going to run security for us. And he said, hey, I've got a place downstairs in the basement I bet you guys have never been to. Let me show you where it is. So, of course, we were interested, and we started to go down the stairs into the bowling alley, which is one of the most haunted areas of St. Albans. And after we made it down the flights of stairs, we heard this sound that sounded like a growl. And we had already decided that if we heard any type of noise, we were going to move toward the noise. We were going to try to debunk it and figure out what it could possibly be, before we attributed it to something paranormal. So we all kind of looked at each other in the dark and, pointed in the direction that we heard it and started to move in that direction. And then we heard it again, and we took a couple more steps. And then that sound, that growl, I will never forget it, was like right in our faces. Well, that young gentleman who was supposed to be the resident, the one who was that was his place. So he knew everything about it. Nothing there scared him. He pushed us out of the way, and he began to run up the stairs, holding his Mel meter, which he had the Mel meter with the REM pod on top of it, and it was screaming, blaring. If you've ever heard that when it goes off, it's the most obnoxiously loud sound. So as he's running up the stairs, his Mel meter is screaming, and we were all like, well, if he's running, perhaps we should run as well. So we turned around, and I was at the end of the line, and everyone kind of pushed by me, and I ended up being the last one up the stairs, but we all hightailed it up to the top of the stairs. And then our psychic, she turned around and she got back into the stairway, and she just said, back off. And it was gone. Like as fast as it had come on, the sound was just gone. And the Mel meter stopped, and it was a crazy experience. I've never had anything that was actually the closest I would say I've been to being really scared. I've never really had an experience that scared me to that, level of fear. But I think maybe because everyone was running by me and pushing me out of the way, it kind of added to the heightened sense of fear at that moment.
Yeah, that definitely sounds very, very interesting. I've always wanted to actually get down to St. Albans.
Oh, you would love it.
It's
Love
very
it.
cool.
Next question I have for you guys, and I mean it's just one of the questions I ask everybody. All the questions I kind of ask are all the same for all the investigators, and then we jump in and have people that are reviewing ask any questions that they may have as well. About how many investigations would you say you guys have probably been on?
Oh, wow. I would probably have to consult my website where I try to write down the names of the places that we've been to. I don't even know if I'd have a good estimate. Probably more than 50, but I don't know exact numbers, but I could find out. A lot.
That's fine.
A lot. And then there's places that we've done more than once, like if you count the ones we've done more than once, well over 100, because like we've done St. Albans 4 or 5 times. We've done the May Stringer at least a dozen times. Kerr City is an awesome ghost town in Florida that we've done at least probably 4 or 5 times. So there's a lot of places we've been to more than once. If we both really feel that to really get the best evidence from a location, you can't just be one shot in and out, because the spirits really need to get to know you and feel comfortable with you. And the more times that you're there and showing them that you'll be back and talking to them, I really think it helps. I mean, when we were in Chicago just recently, we purposely rented a room at a very haunted hotel, and we spent 3 nights there, and we investigated every single night. And we felt that we got much better evidence than if we'd have just gone in for 5 hours and left.
All right, and then the next question I had for you guys was, during an investigation, a lot of individuals like to use certain equipment. Is there equipment that you guys prefer to use when you guys are trying to investigate?
I mean, there's a lot of things we've tried over the years. There's a lot of things we don't even bother using anymore. Our favorite pieces of equipment are just our bodies and this, our senses, and of course, a great camera and a good voice recorder, and those are probably our favorite things. But one of our new favorite toy. It's our new favorite toy. Dave Spinks actually had this on our investigation at St. Albans. And when I saw it, I was intrigued by it because it did more than one thing. And I'm all for not carrying so much because, believe me, sometimes I look like a real geek. I mean, I have this ginormous backpack, and then if you take the cases with you, and it gets cumbersome, and that's why we've really started downsizing. So if I have something that can do, more than one thing, then that's really useful to me. Now, I don't know the exact name of this.
It's a geophone.
It's a geophone, but it does more than one thing. I call it my green box, but it's very reasonably priced too. And I'm not trying to do a commercial for I don't even know who actually makes it, but I'm not doing a commercial for them. But you know how most paranormal equipment, and I've bought so much of it, it costs an absolute fortune. And this is only $99. So that's really, really, really economical. And what it does when you turn it on, there's 3 buttons. I can turn it on for you. But what it does is it has a vibration meter down here, so that if you put it on a stable surface where it's not getting vibration, if somebody should touch that surface or cause it to vibrate, then by these dots here. And then these 2 here are like your K2. The 2 blue here do the same thing. They record the EMF. So they're like a K2 meter. And then you have your temperature gauge up here. So it's my little trifecta. And we use this a lot right now because it can do 3 things for us. But besides that, we have a lot of the toys. A lot of them, like I said, we don't really use as much anymore. I have a cute little puppy dog that I bought when I was up at Rolling Hills. And he's really cute, and I hope to entice the children with him. But mostly good cameras, good recorders.
Yeah.
And actually, we've even found that not so good recorders are better recorders. Sometimes the recorders that are made nowadays, they have so much noise canceling software on them that the white noise doesn't come through as well. The EVPs don't come through as well. And so if you can find old ones, sometimes you can actually get better EVPs.
Now, have you guys used like analog recorders as well, or just?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I first started, actually, we did a lot with the analog recorders. It's so difficult to find tapes for them that, we've gone to mostly all digital. But a friend of ours who we investigated with in Savannah has an old BlackBerry that he does not use anymore. It's super old, one of the first model phones, I think. And he uses that for all of his EVPs. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen, if I could get his BlackBerry, it's amazing. It's really, really useful for capturing EVPs because the technology is just not as good as today's technology. So it really gets a lot of raw stuff, which is nice.
Then the next question, I kind of came up with it because I've personally seen it kind of with some individuals. Some people like to kind of go out and investigate for the thrill of investigating. And there is kind of a difference that I've seen throughout the whole community of individuals that like to investigate for the thrill, or individuals that enjoy to like go through the footage and everything. So the question I have is kind of what do you find to be the greatest part of doing an investigation?
The day before.
Anticipation.
The anticipation is always really exciting. What will be in this new location? What might we find? Who might we be able to contact or speak to? If it's a residential, obviously, trying to, help the people that you're going to see and put their fears to rest, hopefully, or maybe let them know that they're not crazy. But the actual investigation sometimes can be really fun, and other times can be super duper boring, depending on, what's happening or what, evidence you're getting. The first investigation that I took Tracy on
I'm new to the team.
was
so.
amazing. I mean, it was one of those types of things that you just don't come into every day, and she thought that's what every investigation was going to be like. And then, after several more, she kept saying, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And then, of course, going through the evidence later, sometimes can be like watching paint dry. And that's one of the reasons that we have downsized a lot of our equipment. We used to go in with like 12 static night vision cameras and hook up all these things, just flood the place with equipment. And then each one you have to watch individually. So if you are investigating for 8 hours, then you're watching 96 hours of footage on just your cameras. And then you still have to listen to your audio devices. And then you still have to go through, it's just like, oh my God, it's like you want to rip your hair out. So now we usually go in with a couple of cameras, and then we can actually watch what we do and what happens much more easily. It's much more realistic. And plus now, since we're doing a lot of filming for the show that, we've started working on, they want you, you have to go through everything for them. So it's a lot of work if you have too much equipment. So sometimes we'll leave something running in a room, but we don't do it with 12 rooms anymore.
Right.
It's just too much.
And we like to do short EVP
burst
now.
sessions. We like burst sessions much better, because we used to run a recorder for like the entire duration of the investigation. And then I can't tell you how many nights I've fallen asleep with headphones on, trying to listen to nothing but myself asking questions or talking. And that's just yucky. So
Yeah, we kind of started doing that with Rolling Hills when we were out there doing the burst session. That kind of seemed to help.
Yeah, at least then if you've got something, right away.
Then you can build on that with your next question. Whereas when you're listening to it 3 days later and you're not at the site anymore, you can't say, oh, I got the name Deborah, let me go back and find out who she was. It's too late.
Right.
And I think it helps with the communication too. It's real-time communication. So, it's, hi, my name's Deborah. Okay. And then you can say, hello, Deborah, acknowledge
Exactly.
it, and it builds the communication.
Exactly.
And the next question I had for you, to any new people that might be interested within the field, within joining the field, is there any tips that you might have for them?
Yes. Learn from everybody that you encounter.
Yeah.
Don't go in and think you know it all. Pay attention, be respectful, and learn.
Yeah.
Good techniques, and learn the difference between good techniques and bad techniques. Don't go in based on what you see on the TV shows.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because, that's just, some of those techniques are not the ones you want to use.
That's right.
In locations. And absolutely always be respectful. A lot of the locations that you go into, because they're very, very old, some of them are, historic places on historic registries, and you would never want to in any way harm anything that's an artifact or a piece in a museum, or, tromp all over somebody's, beautiful home. Or it's just, you have to really, really be respectful, and
to the living and to the dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And protect yourself. We try to remember to always not only do a prayer before we investigate, but also one as we're leaving, to ask the spirits to all stay and not come home with us. We don't want to take any extra guests home with us. And I think it just all goes, to me, it's just like when you go into a friend's house. How would you enter that house? How would you treat their things? And then, would you say thank you when you leave? Or, it's the same thing. It's just all the same thing.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. So, what do you guys think about spirit boxes?
Well, I have a PS7 that I rarely use. However, when we were in many of the investigations we've been on, we've worked with some people that are really masters. We got to work with Johnny Zaffis and George Lopez, who know how to work a spirit box better than probably anybody I've seen. They have done spirit box sessions with us, as has Dave Spinks, who's amazing. He investigated with us in St. Albans and in Savannah and ran spirit box sessions for us both places. And we've gotten very viable evidence on those sessions. However, I've also seen people use spirit boxes, and they hear things that I don't hear. I mean, I've heard so many people going, oh, look, they said such and such. And I'm like, where did you hear that? I did not hear that. The sessions that I've done with the people that I just named that are very, very good at the technique that they've perfected, I have heard real evidence come through on those spirit boxes. But I've also been in sessions that I did not feel were very productive, and I really didn't feel that I was getting viable evidence that I could use. So maybe it depends on what you're using. Maybe it depends on who's using it. Maybe it depends on where you are. I don't know. I would never discount it and say don't use it, but I just wouldn't put all your faith into that either.
And the next question I had is actually about the Ouija boards. A lot of people have always had curiosities about them. What do you guys think about Ouija boards and their presence within the field?
Well, I'll tell you, I used them as a child. Not that we knew any better, but back when my friends and I were all kind of having slumber parties and seances, we had Ouija boards, and I can remember asking questions, and we had the little magic 8-ball too. I mean, we used our little toys as children. Have we ever used one yet? No, we haven't. I don't know if that means we wouldn't. We haven't.
We haven't.
I really don't think that any item that you use is a specifically bad item or a good item. I think it's how you use it. And I think if you're looking to find bad entities and to bring out, negative forces, then maybe you will. But if you go in the way that we do, we really believe that most all spirits that we've encountered have always been relatively nice and communicative. So I'm not going to tell you I've really encountered any demonic things, nor do I choose to. But, maybe it depends on what you go in expecting or what you're looking for. I think things can be used properly. I think some people don't use them properly. But it's just a tool.
What would you guys say you feel is probably the worst thing you've ever came across within the field? And it doesn't even have to be like a case. It could just be in general.
People.
I've gotten that so many times lately, but yeah.
But if you're going into a ghost town in the middle of a national forest, spray yourself down with bug spray.
DEET. DEET is very good.
Yes.
Bathe in it.
Yeah.
Wear long sleeves, long pants, boots, hats. Put your hair up.
Ticks can really ruin an investigation.
Ticks are bad.
Ticks are very bad.
Ticks are very, very bad. Besides ticks, just mean people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's kind of like a competitive field, even though it really shouldn't be. We should all try to work together. And I mean, we were when we were at Rolling Hills. There were so many groups that we were all working together with, and you don't see that very often, which is kind of saddening.
it's really sad. And that's one of our big things is we want to work with anybody who wants to work with us. We specifically will try to hook up with other investigators in the field and say, hey, would you like to come on this investigation with us? Then, to me, it brings in all that new knowledge and new techniques, and it's just so much better. And I don't understand, it gets me, it's a pet peeve of mine when somebody says, this is my piece of evidence and you can't use it or share it or post it or any, and I'm like, wait a minute. If we're supposed to be scientists type in a field that is still not very well respected in the scientific community, but yet if we want to be more respected, when the scientists were trying to find cures for smallpox, did they say, well, wait a minute, this was my test. You can't use that to build on your test to see if we can really cure this disease. This is only mine. It's all mine. I'm not sharing it. I mean, we would have never cured anything. We would be nowhere, and that's kind of how I feel about the paranormal field. If people don't work together and start sharing things, even at the same locations, if somebody's been in there before you and they can say, hey, we contacted a spirit with this name and we found out this information, and then you can go in and try to build on that information. I don't think we're going to get respect as a group without being able to accept each other and work with each other and learn from each other. I just don't understand why people don't.
Yeah, we're almost cutting off our own feet at that point.
Exactly.
Right. So. And I love working with other people. That's how I learned so much. And, every person that we've gone investigating with, we have always gone away going, wow, I really like the way they did that. Yeah. Let's incorporate that into our investigation because that was cool. Right. It worked.
I mean, just in the last 2 years, we have learned so much from, that's another one of our team members. You're on the camera.
This is Doc.
This is Doc. He's our founding team member.
Nice
but just in the last 2 years, I mean, we've spent a lot of time working with like Brian Cano, who we've learned tons from, Dave Spinks, who we've learned tons from, George Lopez. I mean, it's just, I can't even begin without those people. And my gosh, Patrick Burns. I mean, the most amazing EVP, the way that he conducts an EVP session, it has changed the way that we conduct EVP sessions. And I think if you don't work with those people and don't learn from those people, how do you grow? I mean, you're stagnant.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. Completely. The last question I have for you guys is always the one that gets everybody. But what is your theory of why or how a ghost exists?
Well, mine has to do, I guess because, we're both, I don't know if everybody knows this, but we're also both teachers. So we come at things kind of through an educational standpoint, I think, a lot of the time. But mine starts with the theory of energy. And energy cannot be created or destroyed. And our bodies are energy. We're made up of energy. And so when we die, where does that energy go? And that's a question that, I've always had. Where does that go? Because it doesn't get buried or cremated. The energy still exists. And I really believe that energy, there's energy in everything we do. And to me, if back in the olden days, I love this analogy, people would build houses from scratch and they touched every brick and every stone that went into that wall or into that house. And I believe if you go up to that historic house and you touch that brick or that stone, you're actually touching, you're connecting with a piece of the energy of that person that was there before you. And to me, that energy still exists. It's all around us. And it doesn't die. It doesn't die with the body. So I believe that energy is our spirits. It's all part of us. I don't know.
That's interesting that you should bring that up, because when my first trip to the Alamo, I laid my hand on the wall. Of course, I read the sign afterward that says, "Please don't touch the wall." But
Another thing.
Yeah.
Another thing. Try to read signs when you're ghost hunting.
But I put my hand on the wall, and I had such an overwhelming sense of grief and loss. It kind of blew me away, and I walked out of there feeling it was just unbelievable amounts of energy. And I believe that it ties into what you say, that the energy remains, especially in places where there's been a lot of loss of life, such as the Alamo and battlefields and places that have
sustained horrible tragedies, fires, and
well, even if you go to the Ground Zero at the World Trade Center, you can feel the energy there, the people.
Yeah, I was there a year after it had happened, and I mean, you couldn't even talk. You just couldn't talk.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I got goosebumps just thinking about it now. So.
And you guys have things coming up. Would you guys like to talk about some of the stuff that you guys have coming up as well?
Sure. We need our calendar. No. In the beginning of April, we're going to be going to Salem to a big paranormal conference there and doing some investigating in a town that I have a strange affinity connection with. I do believe in past lives, and I think that I've been there before, besides just traveling through in this life. But I think I have a connection to the whole Salem history. And so we're going to be going there. And then later in the month of April, we are going to Sulphur Springs with Dave Spinks. We're speakers at a conference there, and we're going to be actually staying on site and investigating there, which is going to be awesome. And then in May, we're going to Tombstone, Arizona, which Doc is super duper excited about because he is totally our history buff, and he cannot wait to get to Tombstone. We're going to be with Brian Cano there doing some very cool investigations in the desert, which I can't wait for that. And then
Larry Overman will also be there.
That's right, our producer.
We have to mention,
sorry, yes, our producer
for True Ghost Stories, which we are a part of. We're Team Florida.
Yeah.
And True Ghost Stories is paranormal unity being brought together. There are teams from
every state and
countries.
Internationally.
Yeah, we have, I don't know how many countries now that are on board, but it has been syndicated.
At least 6. Yeah. It's been syndicated overseas in like 25 countries. Supposed to start later this year. So we'll keep you posted on that, but that's very exciting. And our producer, Larry Overman, will be in Tombstone with us. So we're hoping to maybe do some filming there for the show.
Tell them what the show is.
True Ghost Stories it's really awesome. It's all real paranormal teams, raw footage. We do all of our own work. There's no production team. It's just paranormal investigators doing what they do. Sometimes you get evidence, sometimes you don't. It's
cool.
Okay. It's just the real deal. And that's
totally
what makes it cool.
Unscripted.
Yeah,
there's
no scripts.
What you see is what you get.
Yep.
And we recently worked with Team Georgia, which is Archer Paranormal. In Chicago, and I'm working on putting together our video now. That was a lot of fun.
That was awesome. That was awesome. And it's so great because we do come together and work with other teams. We're going to be going this summer in July. We're going to work with a team from Bobby Mackey's, and we're going to be working again with Archer and doing some investigations at Saddamsville Rectory and Bobby Mackey's.
The Pollock House
and the Pollock Hospital in Peoria, Illinois, with the Shadowhunters team from Illinois. And so we're doing kind of a paranormal road trip this summer. We're trying to hit some locations and hooking up with the teams kind of as we go. And so that's kind of what's coming up. And also we're writing a children's series. It's called the Florida Fright series. And that we started with our first book, which is the May Stringer house in Brooksville, Florida. And that will be hopefully coming out later this year. And we were just featured in a book on St. Albans, the place that we talked about in Virginia. We are Chapter 11, which we hope is not in any way giving us a bad label hanging over our head, Chapter 11. But we are Chapter 11. Our team was featured in that. And it's called The Ghosts of St. Albans, and you can get that on Amazon. So lots of things coming up. Oh, and we're doing the Chicago Con.
Yes.
And next
in October.
In October.
He's got it.
And how can people find you, contact you if they're interested in trying to find
we would love
how to work with you and so
Yeah,
forth?
absolutely. We would love for them to contact us. We have a couple of different ways. First off, we have our Facebook page, of course, which is if you just go into Facebook, it's ESP.2009. So it's facebook.com/ESP.2009. They're in your pouch. And then we also have our website, which is espexplorers.com. And my email address, we try to make it all simple, is espterry@gmail.com. That's esptracy@gmail.com. And all of those have my cell phone number on them. So if you go to my website, my Facebook page, it's probably crazy, but my cell phone number's there. So if anybody wants to contact us, we're pretty easy to find.
And I do have those links as well in the description below the video, just to let you guys know. So any viewers that are viewing this now or afterwards, you can find that information in the description below this video. But I'd like to thank you guys for coming on. And,
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing.
We definitely want to work with you again.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing everything you guys are coming out with. It sounds awesome. The true ghost stories sounds epically great for the field. To have that real.
I think so too.
The realness, the realistic aspect of ghost hunting and so forth, and that's what the show really kind of stemmed from, is to give the reality of what we actually do. So it's nice to see that coming forth with other teams as well.
I agree.
And any other big huge hunts that you guys might be popping out, like down in Florida? Like, you guys have any events that you host down there in Florida?
We hosted a really awesome event last was it October? Or November? I don't know. It was last fall. I think we hosted a really great event at the May Stringer house with Andrea Perrin, who's a really, really good friend of ours from Conjuring fame. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. We're also going to Ocean State Paracon this summer in Rhode Island. With Andrea Perrin. And we did a big event for her at the May Stringer house. And I think that Maria, our friend Maria Schmidt from Seven Sisters Inn in Ocala, where we've been many, many times and we do a lot of work with, she's planning on some events in the not too distant future that she wants to use us for. So as soon as we know dates and times and places, we will definitely put that out. We do a lot of things in the state of Florida, but obviously we're willing to travel just about anywhere. So
yes, we like to travel.
We do like to travel.
We've been checking out some locations that are pretty close by here that are very quiet, not very many people.
Right. We kind of like the ones that aren't as well known. All of our books that are going to be in our Florida Fright series are going to be places that we've investigated in the state of Florida that are not super biggies. Like if you searched haunted places in Florida, they might come up. In fact, now that we've promoted the heck out of May Stringer, it actually does come up as the #1, I think. But prior to the promotions it's gotten in the last few years, it wasn't too well known. But now it's getting more well known. But a lot of the other spots in our books are places that, would be more off the beaten path. And we like that. And we're hoping that we can encourage more people to go to some of those places and not just, the St. Augustine Lighthouse. Not that that's not a cool place, but there's a lot of cool places in Florida.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I-
old towns.
You know,
I do see a question. It's have you guys had a chance of investigating the Keys down in Florida?
actually, I have been to the Keys, and my favorite place that I investigated there was the Audubon House. In fact, if Doc was still in here, he would probably have given you his little story about the Audubon House. But Doc has a habit of, he likes to fall asleep in places that are very, very haunted. So he finds like the most haunted room, most haunted area, and he takes a nap. And we put a camera on him. It's kind of hilarious. But at the Audubon House, he found this really neat little rocking chair out on the porch. And he was just kind of sitting there dozing a little bit. And we went out and took tons of pictures and video of him. And when we reviewed that evidence, and he is a doctor, that's why his nickname is Doc, and we got the most amazing little orbs, I guess you would say, balls of light. There was one on each one of his knees, and then there was a little circle of little orbs around his feet. And in his mind, there had been a lot of children in that house that had died from yellow fever. And he usually connects really well to sickness and children, especially because of being a doctor. So he felt that those little children were kind of coming to him to be comforted. And, you know, so he had a real connection with that house there. I'd like to go back and do some more in the Keys.
Yeah, that sounds actually very very interesting as well. I'm not seeing any other questions popping up. I'd like to thank you guys, and again, if you guys
Thank
would
you
like
so
to
much.
let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, and then I think we're all
Absolutely.
set.
Absolutely. Like us on Facebook and check out our website. We're going to start a page on there for blogs so that people can, you know, interact and question us so that we, you know, we like to learn from other people and we like to find places based on what other people tell us. So if any of your listeners know of an amazing place that they think we should go or check out, or, you know, please let us know, because that's how we find a lot of the places that we go to. People tell us about them. So I think when we come together more as a, you know, not just one team, two teams, five teams, but the whole community, then, you know, maybe we can really make some progress.
I think we can make some bounds once
Yeah.
that starts really happening.
Agreed.
And again, thank you so much for coming on. And it was awesome to meet you guys. I mean, in
Yes,
person,
you
Rolling
too.
Hills for us
Yes.
was absolutely amazing for a
Us too.
location.
And we want to go back to Fort Niagara, so we need to work that out sometime. So
Yeah, Fort Niagara was very cool
very
place too,
cool
and
place. Yeah.
the people that worked there were very open.
Very
to,
open to us doing an investigation there.
Yes.
So maybe we can hook up with you guys and put one together.
Yeah, I look forward to that. That sounds awesome. Definitely does. Everybody, you can check us out. Upstate Supernatural. Don't forget to like, subscribe. You can also find more series, more shows that we have on upstateghost.tv on YouTube and on Facebook and so forth. Don't forget to check out our upcoming show this upcoming Thursday and tonight at 8 p.m. Chris V has a radio show. And actually, she's in Florida as well. She does
Wow.
shows about haunted locations, and it's not
Ooh.
completely paranormal. It's kind of all around. But everybody, go ahead and check that out as well. And I will catch you later. And have a great week.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks.